CoronaTV viewers. I'm Johnny Damon.
You're my bobblehead Joel today, just nod up and down if you agree. Welcome to the show, Mitch Joel. How are you?
Happy birthday to you.
And just look at those washboard abs.
I know, right? Oh yeah, this is the fittest I've ever been in my life, you know.
Happy birthday from Johnny Damon.
First of all, let's just do the elbow bump. Well, hello, everybody. How are you guys doing today? It is November 19th. The year is 2020 for anyone paying attention. And I really loved that particular opening because I got to see myself pretty much in March, maybe a little bit of April, when I was still quarantining in my house, different bedroom, different floor, or as some people call it, marriage. 20 pounds heavier, a little bit more facial hair, sound not so great, no green screen. And I think I've come a long way. I'm proud of it. It's actually why there are 2 days left, by the way, for you to, if you are so inclined, to vote up or share my proposed panel for South by Southwest 2021, the virtual South by Southwest, called How I Reinvented Myself During a Global Pandemic, and You Can Too. That's the key here. The key is, and you can too. This is what I want to do. I want to share all my tips, my tools, my tricks, my secrets, successes, the failures, just encourage other people to come on into the streaming waters. Get it? Streaming waters? Because the water is fine. The water is absolutely great. Let's see who's watching today. Oh, Jan voted yes. Thank you, Jan. If I do make it by one vote, there will not be a recount. It will be because of you, my friend. And Tom Morris is here. And of course, my mother. The beautiful thing about these, it's not even streaming wars, right? They called it the streaming wars once upon a time, but they were relating to HBO and CBS All Access. For us, it's not streaming wars at all. It's streaming love. I can tell you that it's amazing to see, Chris Brogan's show, for example. His parents are watching, and my mom is watching, and my mother-in-law is watching, and it's great feeling so connected to my family through my actual streaming show. But anyway, let's get into the rest of the show today. Oh, I have another thing to tell you. Mark your calendars. November, next Wednesday, November 25th at 2 p.m., the next community show will air with Mitch Joel, Bob Farnham, Faith James, Bruce Turkel, Mike Lipkin, Mark Schaefer, Martin Albarda, Leslie Rader, Laura Gassner-Otting, and me, unfortunately. Someone has to be the host. And I don't even know if I've announced this yet, but starting in December, every single Friday show will be this show. Will be 9 previous guests plus myself. 9 plus myself. And we'll see if that works. If it works and you like it, we'll keep doing it. And if it doesn't, well, guess what? We'll just, we'll pivot. We'll change course. Why not? So today is actually, interestingly enough, it's National Have a Bad Day. And the essence is it's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to be off your game. It's okay for things to go wrong. It's okay to forgive yourself. It's okay not to be so hard on yourself. And it's very appropriate because this week's interview is actually, it wasn't meant to look like this at all. On Wednesday, it was meant to be Adam Ferrier in Australia. He couldn't make it. He pulled out with about 24 hours or 36 hours to go. And how lucky was I to replace him with Alan Lightman, who wrote the 13 Keys to the White House. What a fantastic opportunity. Oh, look, it's Kerry O'Shea Gorgon. She said, that's today. Checks out. I wonder why she's even saying that. What does she mean? Well, guess what? Scott Rouse, who's meant to be the guest today, is not here either. He's actually not here. And do you know why he is not here? He's not here because he actually, and I'm not joking, I'm not making this up. He was called out on a real case, on a miss. All I will say is he is working a missing persons case. And he emailed me at about 9:55 this morning. He said, I'm on a case, and I won't tell you any more details about it. And I immediately replied to him, and I said, well, do you want to do 5 p.m.? Never heard back from him until about 10 minutes or 15 minutes ago. And he said, sorry, not going to make it. And again, I emailed and I said, do you want to do it at 5 p.m. today? Never heard back. I'm assuming he's not there twiddling his thumbs right now. Right now, he actually is interrogating a suspect. I mean, he's doing good. He's working with law enforcement to do good, to find someone who's missing. It's unbelievable. What a saint. And so he's not here today. What am I going to do about it? Am I gonna just give up? Am I not going to do a show? By the way, I would have told you that I wasn't doing a show, but I literally found out about it 3 minutes ago. But here's what I did do. Tom, that's pretty good. He said, so Scott is the missing person, I guess. And Kerry said, today is National Have a Bad Day. For me, it checks out. Well, for me, it doesn't check out, because even though something went wrong, I decided to pivot myself. And so today, the role of Mr. Rouse, of Scott Rouse, will be played by the one, the only, Mr. Chris Brogan, host of the Backpack Show. And you know what? Let's just bring him on, Mr. Chris Brogan.
I was getting ready. I had my glasses. I was going to be Rouse. I was going to talk to you all about body language. Joe, you look very confident. That's what I noticed in your body language.
Thank you. And you're looking very pixelated, by the way.
Am I?
Yeah, because it might be my connection, because we haven't really been paying the bills around here lately. Robert says, roll forward, the show must go on. Yeah, the show is going on. But you better love Chris Brogan, Kerry. Let me fix a few things. So let's see what I can do here to make the show a little bit more branded. There we go. That's a better background, wouldn't you say, Chris?
Perfect. The very best background ever.
And let me see what else I can do. I feel like having
I'm blacked out.
Yeah.
Maybe you want me to refresh? I mean, look, we're having bad day. I might as well.
While you're doing that, I'm going to fix my green screen and be a little bit more branded as well. So yeah, so I decided. So first of all, if anyone is pissed off right now, please don't be angry with me. I literally found out about a few minutes ago that he wasn't going to make it, and Chris very, very kindly agreed to come in. He is the host of the Backpack Show, the one, the only Backpack Show. And if you aren't subscribed and if you aren't watching it, well, then you should. chrisbrogan.com/backpack show. Well, anyway, listen, this is not about me today. This is about, I'm not the host, but there are a few things that I have to do in terms of hosting type of things. I'm not going to worry about seated soliloquies, but Chris, will you join me in just wishing some happy birthdays? Just going through that needs to be done.
How couldn't we? We have to. These are important birthdays for today.
Do you know anyone on that list?
Let me see. No, but for a moment I looked at the parens and I thought those two people have 50 birthdays today, but I guess they've accumulated 50.
Well, I'm turning 50 this year, and so it's the only time I'm going to call out a milestone, which is a pretty amazing milestone. So to David Maroc and Gavin Sachs, hope you are not spending your 50th alone.
Welcome to the 50 Club. I turned back in April. It's a good time for these half-century humans to be alive.
I would agree. And how about LinkedIn? Anyone you know on LinkedIn?
Oh, let's see.
Because you are a man with many contacts and networks.
I know anybody? I think is Steve Jackson from Steve Jackson Games? Then maybe I know him, but it sounds like a probably reasonable name that a lot of people could have. So
let's see what's going on here. Mr. Jeff Cottrell is here. Hello, Jeff. Good to have you back on the show. What a great guest. He said 50 is the new 50. I was hoping he would say 50 is the new 30. And Tom says, talk about a pivot. Joseph, you're a magician. Chris, you're a rabbit out of a hat. I'm sure you would like to be the magician, me the rabbit, but it's just how it worked out.
Freedom the rabbit today.
Ta-da! Mr. Brogan says Mr. Robert Collins, and he also likes my Superman shirt. Well, I was just trying, to pull it together and show some superpowers or superhuman strength. I did my best. All right, Mr. Brogan, I don't think there's anything else to do except to just get in and get on with the show.
Let's make a show.
What are we doing today?
I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk a little bit about show making, seeing as you and I started around the same time and are just continuing to fall in all the same holes and burrow, all the same bombs are stepping under our feet and all that. And, it's an interesting time, I think, for this medium. And it feels a little bit like the way where podcasting launched officially around 04, 05. I started in 05, but then everyone felt like they launched it in 07. And then everyone really launched it after Mark Maron around 2010 or so. And then everyone really launched it in like 2016. I feel like that's where live video is right now. Today is the new day, even though we've done this like 20 years worth.
Well, I'll tell you, let's go back to that for a second, because, had I just stayed the course with my audio podcast back in the Adam Curry days, and I was getting, I would be, Joe Rogan would be trying to emulate me as opposed to the other way around. And I'm not even joking. I'm not saying that snarkily. I'm saying I remember the days when I really had the juice associated with that audio podcast, and I was on the top of my game, and I just took my foot off the gas, and I don't know why. I'm trying to remember why, but I do remember that we were starting to get a little demoralized because all the PBSs and the ESPNs and all of the networks were coming in, right, and just blowing us out the water with all the hard work we'd done. But what I don't think we saw coming was, the Mark Marons and the Adam Carollas that were, and I don't want to be unfair by saying this, they weren't A-listers at all. No. But they came in and they just, established this cult-like following.
Mark Maron especially says many times over, he was a stand-up comic and he had done a few TV credits or whatever. But what he had said was that he just really wasn't going anywhere. So he did this podcast just out in his garage for something to do. And he had enough pull that he could get the kinds of comedians that he worked with professionally to come by the show. And as people started discovering it because they loved the guests, Mark really kind of fell into his element. And he took on a lot of sort of very early terrestrial radio Howard Stern kind of energy. And he just kept growing and growing to the point that people started asking him to things again. And he really built that power. Same with Adam Carolla. Adam had kind of fitzed around in a whole bunch of different ways, but it wasn't until he stepped out and made his own little, well, it wasn't even for Adam, just his show, but he was really quick to want to make a little network. And, we've talked about that before in the last few months. There's something to it, but then there's always, what pitfalls are with that. So I just think you're totally right. Around 07, when all the big guys came in and made it like a dumping ground for their leftovers or their sort of, put it in the fridge for later. I think that was really demoralizing for people who had really felt like I have a show, and it just suddenly it couldn't hold up to the logos that were in the pile with us. Now it's really hard to understand. I mean, let's just keep remembering that fickle humans don't make it any easier, Joseph, but don't you feel like it's the landscape is back with some new opportunities, and yet we still can find ourselves either going to the moon or nowhere?
I mean, I feel, let me make should I make the background black, by the way?
I mean, it's a lot pink when you have the both.
There's a lot of pink, and it's not blending into each other. Sometimes it blends in really, really well. Sometimes I do my backgrounds really well, and sometimes I do them really badly, like that one. Or that one. This was the first one. This was the coronavirus one, which, let's lose the virus. Yeah, I mean, listen, the whole thing is sometimes you can't always wake up every morning and feel on top of the world and feel like you're killing this and it's going to be okay. But I tell you, we had this amazing conversation with actually Judy Glover about gut. And I've always said I trust my gut. I trust my gut with my life, and I believe in it. And I'm typically right. And there's a reason why, if you actually trust your gut, because the gut is this instinctive response. And then what you were saying is, but when the brain starts to come in and the rational, logical thinking, that's when you start to doubt yourself or be or almost veer off course. So I believe, going back to what we're discussing with '07, that if I stay the course and if you stay the course, only good things will come. Now, what is that? What's the definition of that? I don't know. It depends. I mean, what is your definition of success at the moment? And maybe let me ask it right back to you. Are you 100% confident that this is going to work out the way you want it?
No. Oh my gosh, no. I think of myself as an optimist until I listen to myself and I realize I'm a terrible pessimist. I'm very much mentally in that will never make it perspective. I very much often think, oh, this is the worst day ever. And when I look at the numbers come in, I'm like, well, how come the numbers haven't changed in a month or two? And, there could be some mechanical reasons. There could be, I don't promote this show very much the way that maybe it deserves to be promoted. And, who knows? I feel like, probably similar to the way you do, when we have some of our best gets, our great guests that we're like, this is the one. And then you see the numbers not much different than, a nun that we had on, in fact, our nun did better than some of our big named guests. You really, you get just kind of grindy, it's a real grindy kind of experience. But I would say that the thing I'm getting that I'm not ready to throw away yet at all is that community essence. The fact of this medium allows us to talk back and forth to people in a way that we can't with any of the other models like podcasting. And then also the thing that really excites me the most is that with my show, with the Backpack Show, and similar, I've seen you do it here as well, we thread all kinds of episodes together. Like we grab from this guest from 5 shows ago, we grab from this guest from 17 shows ago and all that, so that we're always sort of refreshing just like how much or how deep this bench of thoughts goes. So I imagine, given what you've got going on as well, that you've got that feeling of like, there's a legacy in here now already.
Well, there's so much I want to actually just respond to what you just said. The first is let's talk about let's work backwards. Let's talk about the thread. So Scott Rouse was meant to come in when in fact, he was going to be coming into the virtual studio when we had that terrible, terrible storm. And we lost power for just under a week. And I did one show, from a parking lot on very bad LTE or 4G. And then I canceled Scott the first time. The second time, and I probably have you to blame for it I'm joking, but you'll understand what I mean in a second. I am in admiration and awe with what you guys are doing with the Backpack Show, specifically how you have made this commitment to elevating. It's not just, it's beyond, just being able to say it in terms of female guests, diversity, inclusivity, entrepreneurs, small business. Your focus is so powerful. And you know what? It's important to me too. But what happened was I was realizing that I was looking back at my guests and seeing a distinctively male skew. And Diane Hessen, actually, who was on the show, emailed me one morning and she said, for an enlightened guy as enlightened a guy as you are, you're not really demonstrating that with your guests. And I said, I know, and I'm trying, and it's a bit of a random thing because when people book, they book. I don't tell them when to book or how to book. And I also don't go out specifically looking for guests, checking boxes. But what happened from that, first of all, I said to Diane, you should come on the show, and she did. Second of all, now what I'm doing is if I see that there are 5 males Monday through Friday, I'm going to boot one. I'm not going to boot them. I'm going to ask one of them to swap. So at a minimum, and it's not even a good enough minimum, 20%, in other words, 1 out of 5 guests will be a woman. Now, Scott 1 week was he wasn't booted, but he agreed to move, and now he's ended up canceling on me but you know what? That's part of the story. The thread is the story of Scott and Joe. Will he ever come on the show or won't he? But I love it. I love the fact that it's all twisty and knotty and it will just make that appearance, if it ever happens, that much sweeter. But I'll say one more thing, and then we'll get to the numbers later, is that the old Joseph, as in 2019, would have been really upset about it and angry and snarky and mad. And now I'm just like kind of laughing at it. Like, what else am I going to do?
I'm not very good at that one yet. When something changes at the last minute, I get grumpy about it still. And I feel for that. But one thing about, you talked about the booking and all that. First, I should say, Carrie Gergon, when I asked her to come and be a co-host, Janet asked the question, when did you do that? I don't know, a few months back. When we launched Backpack Show, different than my other show, Catch Up, is basically the rough answer. When we did that, I said to Carrie, like, we have three very distinguished things that I want to have, distinctive things. One is none of my marketing turd head friends, and every now and again we break the rule on that, but I have lots of marketing friends, and this isn't that show, and so I just said, let's try to find more interesting kind of guests that are not from our crowd. Our marketing friends are so interesting. It's just not that show. And so that was one. Number two, very specifically females, very specifically all the various people of color opportunities we could have as big as possible. So we do check a box. We do absolutely say more women, more women, more women. So I'm friends. Carrie books, like I said, maybe 90-ish% of the shows. 90-ish%. So she'll go around and she'll look around and she'll say things like, I want a ballet person. And she'll go find a ballet person. I do it the opposite. I was watching this World War II miniseries on Netflix, and I was like, wow, it's interesting that they chose animation. Why did they do animation? And I went down some rabbit holes, and I messaged that guy and said, can you come do the show?
And I'm doing that too. Like, and it's the most beautiful thing, which is I see someone on TV. I'm like, you know what? What's the worst they can say? Right. Yes. I mean, no. But exactly but isn't it great? So for every bad day that we have, even with numbers or whatever, we have a good day when someone who shouldn't say yes says yes. Like for me, it was James Rollins. I've read every single one of his books. He is my favorite author, and he was on my show. It was amazing.
Awesome. That's awesome. And I think that's part of the beauty too, is that I think people feel it. And especially if it's someone who's not used to feeling it just all the time. I grabbed Sir Mix-a-Lot, and it's my friend Angel was doing some work with him. And I said, do you like, are you really doing work with him? Like, could I talk to Sir Mix-a-Lot? And he was like, yeah. And he ended up being great. That guy texts me now at weird times when he actually can't find time to talk. Like he'll text me and I'll be like, great, let's get on the phone. He'll be like, oh, I can't. I'm at a Cheesecake Factory. But that was not in my mind that's what I was going to do, is talk to the guy who did Baby Got Back. But at the same time, on the show that we had him, we had a girl whose name is Genevieve Bien-Ami, who she runs something called The Other Boston, which was talking about the fact that 40% of Bostonians are black, but you just never seem to hear about them. So what's up with that? So we put legendary 80s, rap song, big hit that everyone knows guy with a girl in Boston. And that's the other part of the show. That's the alchemy idea, which is that, can we connect that together? And so in a way, I feel, and I sense you might as well, I'm curious to know your thought. I feel like the Backpack Show and Corona and some of our other friends that we're making shows with, that's also alchemy. We're looking out for each other, and we're always sort of saying, oh, let's see what they have for their show, or oh, I'll retweet that one because I saw it go by on my stream right at the right moment, and I'm going to make sure people come to that show too. And I think it's an interesting, it feels good the way 05 and stuff felt for podcasting, 06 and back then. It feels good like that again. Well, so I'm enjoying that.
The big difference is we're older, and we're a little bit more, we're definitely wiser. We're definitely more pragmatic. We're definitely more humble as well. And whether COVID, whether this is just 2020 humbled us, we wouldn't be the only ones, or just, I think we've been humbled by the alchemy, by the experience. For me, that alchemy is the Zoom after show. which is just it's just magic. It's magic, and I have to, not only do I have to thank everyone, my regulars, and many of which, the Tom Morrises, the Jan Zlotniks, the Bob Farnhams, the Joey Dumonts of the world, but Mr. Steve Garfield, who just, who has been, he's been riding me. He's been just saying, you just stay the course, damn it, whipping. You just, keep going. Like there's something special happening with the Zoom after show, and it's just been absolutely transformational. But it is the fact that, we've got the environmentalist living in Vermont, and we've got the world's happiest public philosopher, and just the diversity of backgrounds and opinions and perspectives is just great. I mean, we've got the grumpy conservative, who's in South Carolina, and I'm always just crossing my fingers. I don't know if he's watching today, thinking, I hope he's going to allow us just a little bit more liberal politics just than is considered to be, acceptable, which probably it isn't, because we get quite political sometimes in that after show. But there's alchemy there too. And look, right now I'm thinking, do I go with a co-host? Don't I go with a co-host? How do I change the formula? My gut is to stay doing what I'm doing, but at the same time, being open to possibilities is. I mean, look at you, how you've pivoted as well. The show name, the show format, the alchemy. I mean, that's a lot of change in a short period of time.
I think the iteration opportunities are huge here. I want to really highlight what you've done with the cocktail hour and the after hours and all that. I mean, it really. That's one of the things of beauty as well. Our mutual friend, Jeff Pulver, Jeff never does anything simple. He always has to make excess happen. So Jeff has like 8 or 9 shows now, because that's what Jeff does. And he has a kind of he set up like a coffee shop for musicians where you can come and tip jar the musician in real life, because so many entertainers don't have a stage. And he was like, oh my gosh, I love music. I would love to make a show like that. So he did. He has a show that's called the Zula. And the Zula show is like your cocktail, but he does that at every turn too. He runs his almost exclusively in Zoom, so it feels less showy the way that we're kind of, engineering this look and feel kind of a thing, but it feels gluey insofar as how many people show up, and I think that's the big thing, Joseph. I think the big change over all the last previous bunches of ways we can make shows and podcasts and all that is that community glue. There's nothing without that. People like Leslie coming by, Tom coming by. There's nothing like that. And that's, when you ask about the co-host, one last point is that one great thing that Carrie does is people love Carrie. Even though she professes that she doesn't exactly love people all the time, people love her and really interact warmly with her. And she acts a lot of time on the show as the voice of the community. So she'll read the comments, but also kind of keep that voice thriving in between asking questions like I do. So it's very much an experience where I think if you're even just the tiniest bit deliberate, like 10% deliberate, all the changes happen. And I know you've been, I mean, like you said, look how transformed we are, and look how much we've had a chance to try to do new things and be who we are. You're a whole different guy, and people who think they know you, but who last hung out with you anytime before this show, they don't know you. You don't know me. They don't know.
Yeah, I'm also learning to know myself. I'm learning more about myself, and it's not because of me. It's because of everyone around me, which has been so fantastic. And so let's go to a comment, shall we?
Sure.
Mr. Robert Collins, he says, gents, what live streaming community building elements and approaches have you learned over the years that you recommend good peeps incorporate within their shows today?
The live interaction with the community, the fact that we can do just that, the fact that we can pull out and parse comments and bring them to the fore, just like what you do with your show where you bring the 9 people on. We do a show like that every now and again on Fridays where it's just us, and we bring as many people on through a link. So you've participated in that, as have people who maybe aren't really ready to be a full-time guest yet, but are willing enough to snap on the old cam and ask 4 times if I can hear them. They're ready, and I love that element. I just think, look at what almost happened with John Krasinski when he launched that Some Good News. It had that feeling like, oh my goodness. And I imagine you did too, thought, oh no, well, there we go. Like, it's over now that John Krasinski's here. But what did he do with it? He sold it to CBS, and nothing's happened since. And I think it's the love that we can put on people is going to keep the show growing. The fact that people know how much they matter to coming is the massive difference we have over any other medium out there right now.
I as a creative guy, I love experimentation. I love innovation. I love risk taking. I love doing things that have never been done before. Like when Frank Peruna Jr. Performed the show that is actually the theme song to CoronaTV in his attic. I loved when William Charnock did a tarot reading, and he did one for the show. And the card that he produced in terms of if and when CoronaTV is successful, or in order for it to be successful, this is the ultimate card. And the card was, I think it was agape, which is love, but it is the love of loves. And the way I interpreted that is, it is through love that CoronaTV will find its success. If it is to find success, it is because of love. And it is the love of loves. And by the way, love of loves may not equal fame or fortune or money or any of the things maybe 10 or 15 years I would have put higher on the list. It is just to love what you do in a world and a life that is so short and so short-lived. So it's exactly the point that everyone is making, and even commenting as well. Kerry says, acknowledge the people, show up for you, let them see how much you appreciate them. It's that simple. And yet, Kerry, how simple is it for people to actually say the words "thank you" and "I appreciate you"? And it's amazing.
The love of loves is a great way to look at this show, and it's a wonderful thing. I mean, I like to say that I fall in love all the time. I fall in love multiple times a day. My parole officer says that's actually obsession, but I would go with love. But I think there's so much opportunity, and I think Tom had said about humankind's greatest need to feel appreciated. I'd always heard it as wanted, but I think that both phrases have slightly different weights on the same thing. But you want to make someone kind of light up a little. You want to make someone feel super important. There's 4 amazing words you can add to them. What do you think? Seth Godin did that to me. My first time meeting him in person, we were having lunch, and then we had to go do this little consulting thing that he had promised he'd do. And he said, "Oh, well, I'll only go if Chris can come with me." Point number 1. I mean, right then and there, if someone had come out with a bullet, I would have stepped right in front of him. Seth Godin gets asked this businessy business question. I'm still sitting there just looking at Seth like a weird stalker. And they asked the businessy question. Seth turns to me and says, "Chris, what do you think?" Like, he gave up his turn on the microphone basically to let me give my profession, which, by the way, I think afterwards it was like he got paid all this consulting money and I gave him my best consulting thought, totally free. But because
you answered his question, what do you think? You told him.
My heart, like, Seth Godin asked me, right? And I think what do you think is a really powerful question to keep asking other people, because it's where we get that value sense. People come back with that sense of, oh, my opinion here matters.
And this is my approach to guests. By the way, I want to ask you before I forget, and then I want to talk to you about my approach with guests. A question that I've been asked lately, and I think to Robert's comment, is live or not live. There are many people that are pushing me, saying it doesn't have to be live. Why should it be live? Why must it be live? In fact, by pre-recording, so many shows are pre-recorded. So what is the real benefit of being live? But I just want to say very quickly, my approach with respect to guests, we're talking about metrics and everything. First of all, the more famous, the more celebrity a guest has, the harder they are to manage, the more higher maintenance they are, and the less they actually work to promote their appearance or or the show, because it's not a slight. It's because they do it so often that they're not going to go to bat for you. And what I've actually found is the exact opposite happens when someone who doesn't normally get this opportunity comes on. They will go to bat for you. They will promote you to everyone they know. The other way I look at it is my job is to extract or bring out or celebrate the best in every human being on this planet. And if I can't do that, then I failed. Like, how is it possible that there is a bad guest? How is it possible that there is a bad person to put on the show? That's crap. At the end of the day, like, everyone's got a story. Everyone has triumphed. Everyone has conquered adversity. Everyone has something serendipitous that has happened to them in their lives. That is the challenge that I internalize, which is my job is to find that and focus on that and connect the dots and weave and create the magic. So I don't know if you want to respond to that, but also the live or not live. Have you thought about that too?
The feeling about it's so weird. I've argued the opposite of this point endlessly. I have said to people that live is dumb. You know, the whole world is set up that we can do on demand. We prefer on demand. When we hear that The Mandalorian is only going to give us one episode a week, we're like, what's this junk? You know, I thought we were going to get a whole season at one time, which just that's only like 2 years old, that mindset of that we should expect a season and not expect an episode. And I think that I've said for so long that live is a gimmick. And I don't feel that way. I feel like there's an emotional connection to live. I think the minute it's available on demand for shows like ours, because we're not The Mandalorian, I think the minute that happens, Joseph, it immediately comes into the pile of I'll get to that. And we all know that nobody ever pushes play or clicks or reads. I'll get to that. We all have that folder on our desk full of PDFs that we signed up for that we're never going to read until the internet breaks for a year. It's just not going to happen. So that's my take on that. I think live, I think there's a little magic in that old silk hat that didn't exist before. With regards to guests, and you said something that, you know, my face, you can watch back the film, my face changed because I was like, he's so smart. You were saying that there's never a bad guest. It's always the goal of the host. And I have very recently had 2 different guests in the last couple of weeks. I did not like. I felt like one of them, very smart person, but just wasn't landing the information very well. I just felt like, come on, this should be so interesting, and you're boring as heck. And so you just put it rightly where it belongs, which is on me. And then I had another guest where I just felt the topic wasn't really my topic. I don't know. When I heard it the first time through, I thought that's a great topic. And then when we were talking to the person, I was like, I want to run away. That's my job to find it and make it better. So that's what I did.
I think I've actually had one really bad show. Just the dynamic, the chemistry, and it was relatively early on. It was like, what was that guy's name? Chris? No, I'm kidding. But generally, my view when I have a show that's not on par is I'm mad at myself. You know, I'm like, I wasn't on top of my game, you know, and what I learned as well in the process is all the techie stuff that happens. It's going to happen. Just embrace it. The green screen, you know, look, something happened there as well with a green screen. It went a bit greeny there as well. And the tech stuff. I mean, for God's sake, I'm operating from my house. You know, my laptop is on 2 Nike shoe boxes. Yeah, I still probably don't have a DSLR camera, but I'm doing the best I can, and I'm celebrating that.
I think that's true. I think that I like that point about saying that you're mad at yourself for it, and I think that it's a scenario where we have so many opportunities to make it work out. And I think that we have so many opportunities and so much forgiveness, by the way, with the community we serve, right? I mean, we have great people who say, that happens. I have a feline house guest who has been here since March and I wish was never here ever. And even today, she just went whoosh right onto my shoulder, one shot. When I had David Armano on, she did her signature move was to put a certain element of her body right foremost in the camera. So
But don't you love that?
we have to
I mean,
accept.
For me, it's my mom. You know, it's like my mom just comes on and she writes watching, and then in the after show, my mother-in-law comes to every after show, and it just says, Janice's iPad, and everyone kind of knows her and often says hello to her, and sometimes the guest will say hello, Janice, and but it's almost like a shtick now. She doesn't come off camera, she doesn't come off mute. And I think if she did, the mystery of who is Janice? Is Janice real? Is she really my mother-in-law? You know, do I have a mother-in-law? Am I married? Nobody knows.
I think mystery, that's one thing that or even shticks of some kind, as corny as they seem from the outside, it's amazing how they work right into like the fabric of a show. This is a lame name drop, but I was a guest on the Dr. Phil show. And before anybody comes on that show live, before they actually, light up the cameras, his wife, Robin, I think her name is, comes out, and all these women who go to this doctor, it's almost 100% women in the audience. All these women start screaming the minute she gets out the door, "What shoes are you wearing?" I guess she likes shoes. I don't know a thing because it was my only time being a guest there. So I asked the lady beside me, I said, "Is that a thing?" She goes, "Oh, honey, she has some great shoes." So we all get to see the shoes. No one sees this live. No one watching Dr. Phil knows there's a shoe moment every episode.
And when were you? See, I just found out something new about you.
100 years ago, like 2009, right after Trust Agents came out.
Don't you wish you were on it now? Because now you could actually, that one little mention of the Backpack Show and hopefully Corona TV too will, that is still the game. That's the game. That's the game. You go on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette to boost your Instagram followers. I mean, that is the enemy, actually. I don't want to play necessarily that game, but that is the game. And you can choose to either, you play it if you can, and you don't play it if you don't want to, but you can't be stubborn about it. I guess what I'm saying is don't hate the player, hate the game. But if you get a chance to play the game, play the game. Would you agree with that, or would you disagree with that?
I feel 50-50. So I will tell you this, my appearance on the show with a graphic of my book Trust Agents doing this in front of us for a while, sold no books. It moved 0 needles that way. Now, the one thing it is it's every time someone reads that in my bio, it's a novelty. So I mentioned that I was on Dr. Phil and that I once presented to a princess. Those 2 sentences kind of make people go, "Oh, well, what was that like?" That's it. So it didn't do what it was supposed to do. But you're right. Like if it were nowadays with the show, it'd probably get a couple more viewers. And I think that do we do it? I think so. Look, if I got mad at John Krasinski for selling out to CBS. If any big network is watching you and me right now and they want to put us in, let's go. Right.
Yeah, I also was, but you know what the madness was? It was just, and by the way, it's okay to say it was jealousy. For me, I was like, I'm jealous that he comes along and he's got deeper pockets and resources than me. And he puts on his show, and guess what? The next thing it sells for like $1 gajillion. But that was then. Now I don't feel, in a very short period of time, I don't feel that way at all. I would love him to come on my show. I think, to reach out to him, as I've tried to get Trevor Noah to come on my show. But again, that's the game. You play the game, but you don't hate. In this case, you don't hate the game. The game is the game, and we can, and maybe we'll get lucky at it, but we're also blazing our path. So we have 2 horses in the race, I guess is what I'm saying. And hopefully either one will help us win it.
I hope your countryman, Mr. Noah, comes on, and I hope he does while he's still rocking that awesome hair. I hope you get that with a Joseph Jaffe. That's a screen capture forever.
I'm trying. So Jeff Cottrell said, it's been a pleasure to watch Joseph's show grow into what it has become. I love his attitude and his approach to learning. Honored to have been a guest. I want to tell the story again of Jeff Cottrell. I don't know if I said this on the actual show. So Jeff is a pretty accomplished guy. He was general manager and head of marketing at Converse. He was essentially CMO of Coca-Cola and also Starbucks. And guess how we connected and how he came on my show. My happy birthdays. I send out every day on Facebook and LinkedIn. I cut and paste. I write a little note, but I cut and paste because sometimes it can be 35, 40 in a day. And it says whether you're stuck or stuck at home, just want to send some good vibes out to you. And that's how we connected. It was serendipity. And it was just the fact that he appreciated the fact I was wishing him happy birthday. And now, he's a genuine person in my life that I care for, and just my eyes light up when he's around. And it all came from, and look, there were one or two snarky responses. By the way, Chris, I could count on two hands, less than 10 out of how many since I started have actually said, is that a link baiting type of exercise? What are you trying to do? I'm like, I'm wishing you happy birthday. If it means you watch the show and enjoy it, I'm sorry, But anyway, that was the story of Jeff.
Oh my gosh, who'd have thunk it? Who'd have thunk it? It's, but it's the same thing. It's the same what Tom pointed out. Humankind's greatest need, the need to feel appreciated. And I always say that I've had the opportunity and pleasure to talk to 3 different billionaires for just a little bit of time each. And in all 3 cases, they were very human people. They're not, I don't know that I'd say the same if I hung out with Jeff Bezos, but I know that for the 3 that I hung out with, they were just regular, happened to be exceedingly wealthy human beings who worried that the crowd didn't like their speech, or who were a little uncertain because they didn't feel so prepared, or who didn't like the advice of 2 other really smart people and felt a little jealous that they hadn't been asked earlier some smart advice. Billionaires. So I think it's amazing how humans work out.
Do you get nervous? For every show, or when you have someone that is more well known, like even Sir Mix-a-Lot, or?
Not on the show, because I think by the time we hit record, they're stuck. Like, they're forced to be here. Like, the worst they're going to do is just hang up on us. But I think that's a good question. I get nervous prior to that, thinking, well, not nervous. Nervous is the wrong term. I feel like in the world of being a creative, I think there is no more recurring yucky feeling of that sense that we're throwing our 11-year-old birthday party and we put out a lot of invites and no one's coming. I think you get to feel that so often. I think you get to feel like maybe I'm not that important. Maybe no one cares. Maybe I don't have the camaraderie and the friendship I thought I built. And so it's an amazing, humbling if you can ride it kind of feeling. But I mean, how about you? Do you feel like when you have your best guest on, do you think, oh my gosh, I hope I did enough prep? Or what's your brain saying?
Well, when I had Mark Bomback on the show, he was probably my most famous guest at the time. He wrote the screenplay for Defending Jacob on Apple TV Plus. And I actually wore a suit that day. I just thought it'd be kind of cute, novel. And he was there in jeans and a t-shirt. And he was like, I feel completely underdressed. And I'm on the air, just basically pulled off my tie and I threw it.
Perfect.
And I was stiff that day. I wrote down questions. I tried to be so prepared. Now I'm trying to stay true to the format, which is almost no notes, which is just, in fact, in the Google Doc that people fill out, I just say, what are 3 things on your mind or 3 things you want to talk about? And my challenge, again, the challenge is to find and extract the life and the humor and connect the dots. My challenge as well is also to why my brain has not been atrophying during this time. My brain is jumping from body language and nonverbal cues to discussing leadership, to discussing diversity and inclusivity, and it's just, I think to myself, can I talk about everything on this planet? And just how cool is that to just, it's like gymnastics, just to jump around. So there's nervous energy sometimes. I find myself 20 minutes. The worst time for me is 20 minutes before, because I've got to stop working on whatever it is that I was working on. And I've got to now start to get my mind on the show and start moving the laptop over and getting the lighting sorted out And I kind of feel it's like when you give a keynote, don't you feel like 5 minutes or 10 minutes before you I just want to start already. Like, just get me on stage. I don't like being in the back, you know?
Yeah. No, I just thought of two things. One is that the 15 or so minutes before we go live is my least favorite 15 minutes of my whole day, because often a guest won't be there in time. A guest will have a technical failure. We'll have some massive mistake going on. And thank goodness Carrie is so much more, at least outwardly seeming calm about that, because I'm murderous when they haven't given me the time to like make sure their tech's going to work okay. Like, well, what do you think happened when you show up 4 minutes before the show? We're going to have a problem. And I feel sort of disrespected in that moment. That's one of my burdens I'm working on. That's like my psyche school. When you say about going on stage, the 5 minutes right before I go on stage, there's an incredible negative pep talk going on. There's a voice in my head, like you could hear like Lose Yourself playing in the background with Eminem. And I'm just like sitting there going, you're a big stupid idiot. You are so dumb. You are such a fraud. None of what you're saying is good. Yeah, it's just like you're the worst. And I'm not trying to psych myself up. I really am thinking the worst thoughts I could possibly feel about myself.
I think what I want you to start doing now is 5 or 6 minutes before the show. I'm going to give you the hotline to the CoronaTV studio. You call me and I will psych you up, and I'll do a little bit of like, and I'll be like, "You're good enough, damn it! You're better than that." But
nice.
But I think it's so interesting for me, because it's like, you're Chris fucking Brogan. You're the Chris Brogan. And I've seen your career and that incredible trajectory from the time when you would check into hotels under a pseudonym or an alias, because you were being like stalked. You didn't even have that privacy. And by the way, be careful what you wish for, because it's coming back. It's coming back to you. But I have made myself a promise, a commitment, and you know who you are watching right now. My after show team, this community, I will never, ever, ever forsake them, ever, no matter what happens. And who's to say anything will happen? It may not, but I'm determined not to become, the enemy. And the enemy is old school, walled, celebrity, gated, agent. You need to be able to, and that will never happen with you. I know it. I can. You will always be on Twitter. You will always be responsive. That's what I think is interesting for us. Is that we're elevating our game, becoming more and more competent, confident, professional, but we will never forget from whence we came. We will never forget where we came from. Never.
That's just a flaming note for me. Jeff had an interesting question. I think it was Jeff. He said something about, what's your walk-on music for performing? Now, you never always get to pick it, but I'll tell you, one of my favorite moments ever. I don't like doing slides because I feel like there's just so many things that can go wrong with slides. Plus, I like the flexibility to give the presentation I want to give. So I gave these people my slides. They said, we will not mess up your fonts. I said, everyone messes up fonts. It makes me insane. That we will not mess up your fonts. 7 minutes before going live, I go backstage. I go, hey, everything the way you need it to be. She goes, we messed up your fonts. We're trying right now to make it look right. And I couldn't have been more grumpy in that moment. And I said, you have no idea how mad you made me, except I put about 11 swear words in there. That's not who I am. Like, I'm very, very nice to people and all that. But I was just so mad because it was such a big I told you so. And so they had played for me the Dropkick Murphys, Shipping Up to Boston, which is a nice, good, heavy metal kind of sound. It's got Boston stuff. It's got Irish stuff. And what happened was there was a little bitty round table on the stage. And as I came in and as all that music was inside my body and as all that anger was in my body, I kicked that table, which then proceeded to splinter into like 160 small former tables in an incredible display of not coolness. But I was so frustrated. And then I finished that. And I only have to finish this story. I'm out with Sally Hogshead at dinner, lunch, sorry, like, I don't know, tea, actually, more accurately, like mid-afternoon. And she's got this assistant at the lunch with me. And I thought, that was weird. Like, don't bring your assistant. But the assistant takes a call while Sally and I are trying to talk. And she turns and she puts her hand over the mic. She goes, this is really weird, but that table you asked for, it's broken. I had destroyed Sally Hogshead's table for her presentation.
Wait, was it broken or was it Brogan?
They're the same in my world, brother Joseph.
So Robert Collins is saying Dolly Parton music. I'm not sure if he's referring to you or me, but I do remember I was once asked, and it does speak to my irreverent and self-deprecating personality. My walk-on music is Gangnam Style, and sometimes I like to do a little bit of. All right, so we've got. I know you actually have a real commitment, so you will not be on the after show. But there are two things before we go. One is forget the Mandalorian. I want to introduce you guys to the Chris Gregorian. So there you go, the Chris Gregorian. I had to type that very quickly because I don't have a Carrie. I want a Carrie. I need a Carrie. I don't have a Carrie. But what I do want to do with you is, because you were very kind and gracious to step in at a moment's notice, the one thing I've started is this thing called a Corona question. And I asked my guests the same question for the whole week, and then I edit it together and I put out that piece of content.
Sure.
And so your Corona question, it's probably very appropriate for today, is what's the best advice you ever received?
One of my bosses, Dan Carney, said this very simply wonderful thing to me, which is that nothing ever happens with the drama and the intensity that you expect it to have. Nothing ever happens with the drama and the intensity you expect it to have. And that saved me a lot of times. You know, how bad is this going to be? Everything's going to go terrible. It's not going to be my favorite thing, but it's just going to happen. And then we'll do whatever the next thing is. I had a boss at the time I was really having a lot of trouble with, like losing sleep and feeling miserable. He had to go away on some sort of a thing. He had a medical leave, Joseph. So nothing ever happens with the intensity or the drama that you think it'll have. That's my advice.
Well, Tom says, tell Chris we love him. And then he says, we love him almost as much as you. It's okay if it's a tie. Kerry says, I call him the Broganator.
It's a reasonable one.
You know, there's the Broganator, there's the Chris Gregorian. Where can people find you and what time? And tell everyone about your show.
The Backpack Show goes live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube at 10 a.m. Eastern every weekday. And you can get it at chrisbrogan.com/backpack show. I will have a dedicated site in just a matter of a week or two. And that will be something fun to have. And even that is, accepting something that I picked the Backpack Show .online, thinking I had picked Backpack Show .online. And didn't know that until about 4 days ago. So it'll be at the Backpack Show, to not confuse it with all the other backpack shows, Joseph.
I mean, there's only one backpack show that I care about. Anything exciting coming up, like between now and the end of the year with the show that you can share, that you want to share? Tease us.
It's always a rocket ride. Well, I'm looking to get the first openly trans rabbi on the show in the next couple of weeks. So that'll be kind of fun. Right. And I think that
Yasha Koch.
There we go. So and by the way, in a grief and bereavement center, that's where they work. So when you think trans, you're thinking about all the sort of very life affirming stuff. But they're a rabbi he is a rabbi at a grief and bereavement center. There's a lot of interesting things coming up, but it's always in the small moments, Joseph. That's the thing. When you said that, I was like, who do I have that's amazing? And my head went to the people that matter the most, which are the people that you meet in your neighborhood.
Yeah, like Mr. Rogers. Well, thank you for stepping in. I feel if I doubted or felt bad or felt insecure or felt sad, all of those negative feelings have evaporated with the warmth of your presence, Mr. Brogan. And of course, I feel Kerry's presence as well. She's going to be on the show. You didn't ask me what I was looking forward to.
I totally messed up.
I'm looking forward to her coming on the show. And that's gonna be awesome. And we can talk smack about you for 50 minutes and the after show. I'm just kidding. It's going to be another love fest. I know you have to run, so as good friend, soulmate, Chuck Norris always has to say, and you know what's coming.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
There you go. Thank you, Chris. I'll see you soon, my friend.
Joseph, see you. Thank you.
Thank you for watching Corona TV with your host, multiple author and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. Corona TV is the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. The after show on Zoom starts right now at bit.ly/Corona TV After Show. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show at coronatv.show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, text Corona TV to 66866 or visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.